Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Behind the Screens, your favorite esports and gaming talk show here at Radio UTD. I'm Hector.
I'm Hitarth.
And I'm Adi. Alright, so this week we have a massive bit of news to kick it off. Even though the week is a little light, this topic is actually massive. So Microsoft has acquired Bethesda. Now it's not often that you'll
That's
see...
all you need to know.
like honestly,
that's the
just
show.
like that one. Okay, honestly, that one sentence does encapsulate like so much though, because it's extremely unheard of for like one massive AAA developer to like acquire another massive AAA developer. Usually you'll hear them like pick up like a couple devs, maybe like a few studios, but like an entire company is basically unheard of.
Like this is so big that like anyone I've mentioned our show to everywhere, they'll be like, "Oh hey, did you hear about Microsoft purchasing Bethesda?" And be like, "You should talk about it on the show." And I'm like, yeah, we know. It's like anyone I know who has any like little knowledge on gaming, they know about this. That's how big this was.
I mean, yeah. Here's the thing, though. I think it's mainly because the name in question, Bethesda, is just like overseeing like so many iconic properties, like Fallout, The Elder Scrolls are like their biggest one. And then they have like a bit more smaller ones that have like a super like dedicated following, like Dishonored, Wolfenstein, Doom. Like they have the properties, and for Microsoft to like essentially bring all of those under their umbrella gives them like a lot more exclusivity property, because that's one thing they were lacking prior. Like, because when you think Microsoft, you originally thought like just Halo. Can you think of like anything else that's like Microsoft exclusive?
Microsoft Office, Microsoft Teams.
Oh my God.
I was saying, I'm thinking about this from the side of.
All right, I'm done talking to these schools. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, but joking aside, from the side of people who like don't know about gaming or like big companies like this, they're probably like, "Who's Bethesda?" And they're like, "Why is Microsoft purchasing them?" So they probably don't have any idea about this stuff.
I mean, here's the thing.
Here's
the thing about that, right? Like even if you don't know Bethesda, you can most likely just bring up a name like Skyrim, and they'll be like, "Oh, the people who made that game." Yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand those big of names, like just by looking at the dollar amount on this deal, you can already get $7.5 billion deal to purchase them, which is just outrageously like high. But if you look at it from like a consumer standpoint, right? Like as a gamer, it's like, well, what does this really do for us, right? Like, what does this benefit me in the long term? One thing that I really took out of it is that all of the Bethesda games are now going to be added to Xbox Game Pass, which we've talked about numerous times. A subscription that Microsoft has that you can play on Xbox or PC or both. And I even think some streaming to like mobile and stuff like that. But in essence, basically a subscription service that you pay monthly and you receive a variety of games in this catalog. And I think by adding those Bethesda games, they're adding like a very, very big pool of games that are AAA level.
Yeah, despite Game Pass being temporarily like getting access to those games, that's still like making it way more worth picking up Xbox Game Pass just because of the options.
I mean, they've already like gotten a kickstart on that, because I think it's October 1st. They're already having Doom Eternal, which is like the latest in the Doom franchise released, and that released this year. I'm pretty. No, that was this year. Yeah, it came out same day as Animal Crossing, and it's gonna be coming out in the Game Pass.
That is kind of crazy to think, because like if you think about like that game, how like soon it's. Well, the thing is, on Game Pass, they've notoriously released like all Microsoft IPs like day of on Game Pass.
I don't think notorious is the right word.
You're right.
Notorious.
They regularly.
Okay.
They regularly.
They've very consistently released like anything that's new. Will be pretty much on Game Pass the same day. Ori and the Will of the Wisp, which was like one of like their bigger like titles that came out this year, was on Game Pass the same day.
Oh yeah,
and that's massive.
I missed out on that. I don't know if it's still there. It probably isn't at this point, but.
Well, Ori, it's definitely still there. It's a Microsoft property.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna be on there, like 100%.
It's also like one of their heaviest hitters. It's not going anywhere.
That's fair. Yeah, that makes sense.
PSA to everyone: go play Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Fantastic games. I love them to death.
I will agree. I played the first one, and I'm so excited for the next one.
Yeah, but I guess like for many people that are worried about like those games that were previously owned by Bethesda, and they were supposed to be exclusives to PlayStation 5. Not to worry, all of those that have been confirmed on there are still going to be exclusives for, I think, forever, or at least timed exclusivity for a while, dependent on what the game companies say. And obviously Sony already signed agreements with them, so they can't really back out of that. But I think Microsoft has always been pretty decent about being okay with exclusivities and being understanding, because like a lot of games have happened like that where they've bought companies or they've taken over things, like, and then they're just kind of let everything ride on other things, similar to like Minecraft. They didn't end up taking that off PlayStation. So
yeah, this is making them one of like the bigger superpowers, I want to say, when it comes to gaming companies.
I mean, big as they already are.
Yeah, as like they are, but like doing this is like even more, because like that means they have even more competition and more to show for when compared to other big companies. And this kind of is like, you wonder about this, thinking like, how is this gonna start closing that gap between companies? Like, will this eventually all devolve into one company owning everything?
I'm very glad
forming a monopoly.
You brought that up, because that was like a big thing that people were worried about. That's just like, yeah, at the end, like, you know, all these devs might just get conglomerated into like 3 huge companies, being Microsoft, Sony, and PlayStation.
And then when
Sony
that
and
happens,
PlayStation, Sony and Nintendo. Pardon me.
And then when that happens, you have to start thinking about, well, how is this going to affect like price changes? Because if it's one conglomerate, and that's always the fear of a monopoly, where prices will just go up and they set the standard for prices, and people will still buy them because there's no other competition.
Exactly. I mean, thankfully, like, Microsoft, like you guys have mentioned already, has been like pretty good about like, yeah, we can like put some of our IPs, you know, that we're known for on other consoles. They did it with Minecraft, they did it with Ori, and then they've already confirmed that they are gonna honor the PS5 exclusivity for Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, which are, you know, games that have yet to come out, that were announced like pre-acquisition, like air quotes. I'm pretty sure it's been in the pipeline for longer, but you know, they are just like, yeah, you know, those are their exclusives, that's fine, they can have them.
Yeah, which I think that's great. And I think, in my opinion, Bethesda is, or rather Microsoft is, a pretty honest company, and I think they at least social media, like front facing, they've been pretty open about like, yes, it's competition between like Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo kind of thing, but it's more just like, as long as we're bringing people together over games, they're understanding and they know that that's just in essence what it's gonna be.
I mean, they've also already stated that future Bethesda games will be on like Xbox, PC, and other consoles on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, but another
Sorry, I was just gonna say, we all know that means Elder Scrolls 6, because they're gonna make bank off of Elder Scrolls 6.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Inevitably. Anyways, you were saying
another big person to add to that kind of trio potentially is actually gonna be Amazon. We already know they're practically a monopoly, so they're gonna do the same thing that Google did, and they're trying their take on cloud gaming as well.
Do you mean the Google Stadia?
Oh my god!
If you look,
let's go, guys! We have a new thing to complain about. Yes, hooray!
If you look at the controller, it looks very similar to like the Stadia / even Pro controller.
Pro controller.
I looked at it and I thought it was a Pro controller at first.
It looks exactly like a Pro controller, but just with like Twitch theme kind of thing. But it seems simple. I think the thing about Amazon, and this goes for like everything they do, is they like to target at a really cheap price, and like for most, like they want everyone to be involved. So they're going for like an introductory price of $5.99 per month, which is really reasonable.
That's cheap. I mean that's competing with like the Xbox. I can't speak the English language. The Xbox Game Pass in terms of like accessibility, because Xbox Game Pass on PC is $5.
Well, I think it just got raised to 10.
Oh wait, no, it did just get raised to that. So I think this is like the new lowest when it comes to a subscription format.
This is a bit different, and it's gonna be like, obviously for people that are on PC, most people prefer not like streaming cloud, right? Because it's like, what is the real advantage of that? Obviously, hardware differential is like the main reason people would do it. So if they have like kind of crappy like laptops or something like that, or like you said, storage, then it runs almost natively, or at least that's how it seems. But I mean, it's including some launch titles like Resident Evil 7 and Control, which is a newer title that was on the Epic Store, and Surge 2, Yooka-Laylee. So not like AAA, like I guess some of them are, but not huge big names like you said, like people would recognize instantaneously.
Yeah,
but
like
they said they're adding more over time, which is pretty...
the most that I can think of. I feel like this is something that a lot of like cloud like sort of companies that are like launching subscription services like this don't understand is whenever you have the initial impact of releasing, you gotta have that like set amount of games that makes the audience look at you and say, yes, I will drop like $6 right now if it means I get to play that. Like,
exactly.
The only title that I see on here is like Resident Evil, super well known, but it's like a little bit old and you can pick it up pretty cheap now.
Yeah.
Control at the most is like a recent. Like A Plague's Tale: Innocent, The Surge 2, Yooka-Laylee, Grid, Abzu, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. These are all old games now.
Yeah, I think it's
like they're very far off right now.
I think, and Stadia did the same thing, right? They were like, all right, and it's launching with, and everyone's like, oh, and then it's, what was it? What was the game called? That one shooter on console that everyone was, Destiny 2. It's like, okay, buddy, this game is free to play. Like, I don't know why you're building up hype when it's just announced free to play on PC.
And then on top of that, I can't believe we somehow managed to talk about Amazon and go straight back to complaining about Google.
Well, yeah, I just fear it's gonna be a similar thing.
Yeah, but like at least Amazon hasn't dug themselves in the same hole, or at least not yet. Again, like whenever we're talking about this, it was announced just today.
I was about to say, but
like this is very, very, very new news, and you know. Like, what Stadia did is they announced like a bunch of games coming to it, and people looked at those games like, yeah, I would totally get this for it. And then release came around, and none of those games were there.
Yeah,
like,
it was
kind of rough
launch, and it also had a lot of performance issues, which I think for someone as big of Google's caliber to have like those sort of launch issues, it worries me, right? Because like, I mean, yes, Amazon is on another level as well, where they're on par with Google structurally, but I think that it's just a hard thing to do, and surprisingly Nvidia has done it the best out of any of them, which is
I think the biggest issue with looking at what they have said, like this is day one, but some of the stuff is like, it sounds nice, but then it's also vague. So you're like, well, what does this actually mean? Like, you guys mentioned the price of $5.99 a month, but they mentioned that to be an introductory price during the early access. So, like, I think they definitely plan on increasing that price more.
I'd assume so.
And then they also offer up when it comes to specs-wise how, like, Google Stadia didn't do as well. Well, this one's offering 4K with 60 FPS resolution. I can't talk either. For select titles. So then that's also just like a, well, which ones? And
well,
like,
of course,
what's it going to be otherwise?
Their gaming controller has to have Alexa enabled, so you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They put all their funding into that, right?
Again, like the idea is all like well and good, but again, the main thing is like the games, you know, like because that's what we're paying for.
Yeah.
We're paying for like we don't have to pay for the hardware, but we still want to play certain things. So I'm taking a look at like stuff that it promises, because it's eventually going to be promising stuff like Watch Dogs Legion. It's going to be promising Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and those are great. Like when the time comes, I'll probably be like looking at that with a little more weight. But I felt like Amazon kind of put this out of nowhere, you know? Like if it like coincided with like a bigger game or something, like let's say like it was just like, oh, and also you can play like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, that game that comes out like a week from now. Yeah, you can play it like with us on the day that releases for $6.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's another thing, like I think Amazon, obviously being like the parent company of Twitch, they've been developing a couple games, and I think that could launch alongside it. One of them, which is a little more popular and well known, is called New World, but even then it's still super like early development, I think. So it's getting delayed until 2021. but I mean, we'd have to see realistically. I know that there's a big target audience for this, and none of us are those people. So I think that's also why we don't see it as that incredible. But I don't know. I think it's.
I will
it's
say
definitely
though,
targeted more to other
taking a
people.
quick glance at the list, there are a good amount of indie games on here. I see Shantae Half Genie Hero, Yooka-Laylee, Fury, Sonic Mania.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm counting Sonic Mania as an indie game. That's how bad the Sonic franchise has been doing.
God.
Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, Overcooked 2, Rhyme, Abzu, Indivisible. Yeah, there's good stuff on here for sure, but the problem is it's not something I would go out of my way for.
Yeah, we'll have another platform to play Overcooked 2 on and go nowhere in the game.
Thank God.
I think it's more of a substitute for like console gaming when that happens. But I mean, like, you see Xbox and PlayStation with their next gen consoles, and I mean, I think the only thing it's preventing is like the pre-orders. Recently, there's been a lot of issues with pre-orders of like both consoles, both from Xbox and PlayStation.
It's been a mess, man.
But like, there's just a lack of transparency concerning
yeah.
like the stock of the consoles ultimately, and then just like very awkward like sales where it's like now it's becoming really hard to implement marketing like in stores and stuff like that, or even having queues similar to like what you would see with big launches like the Switch because of social distancing protocols.
I mean, if you ask me, it's one of those things like COVID or no, like everything's been more geared towards online marketing for like a while now, you know?
Yes.
Not like the only time you'll see somebody walk into like a GameStop or like a Best Buy is when they know they're gonna pick something up. Nobody just like wanders around and be like, yeah, okay, I'll pick this up, and then
Well,
walk
I
out.
think it's less about the marketing, I'd say, and more just about like the availability online. And this is a big issue that we're gonna tackle in this next topic as well. But then you have to deal with people that have bots set up that basically snipe like pre-orders of things, and it makes it really difficult for consumers that would normally want to pick something up to do so because they just get bought like literally minutes into the launch.
Yeah, I think the first one I want to jump on when it comes to this, and like the next generation is popping up and seeing as they finally released their announced their release date. I just can't speak today. I'm just gonna give up on speaking English language, mixing up words left and right. But since the next generation's release dates have finally been announced, everyone's like, okay, so when can we pre-order these things? PlayStation dropped it without announcement nor a warning. It was just there. No one knew about it, and it was gone within seconds.
Yeah, and they publicly went on social media and kind of apologized for it, which was unlike Sony to do, I feel, which was pretty nice to see that they admit it. They said, okay, it was pretty terrible. We understand, and we apologize for the bad pre-orders, but we're going to make sure looking forward onto this year that people that do want to pick up a PS5 at least have some opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I think Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you know what this reminds me of? There was that one time, little off topic, back when, before Animal Crossing for the Switch came out, wasn't there like a leak for it or something that like someone was able to download off of the store and buy?
I don't remember that too vividly.
I mean, I don't remember that, but it's not totally unheard of for stores to just release products early.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of people with like one of the more recent examples that I can think of is the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. There were some people that had that like a week early just because the stores were just starting to sell them.
Yeah,
They just like broke the date. Yeah, it happens.
It happens pretty often, like overseas, like not in the United States. They're pretty strict. But
that's
like
fair,
different countries and like stuff like that with their regulations, like they should theoretically all obey like the public street date or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I hear it happening in like EU usually quite a bit.
Yeah.
But as for like but going back to what you were saying about like PlayStation messing up, like I like that their apology did seem like very genuine, because I'm very sure they picked up very quickly on like, oh, we did this wrong, like wrong, and it was really funny because Xbox on their social media came after them saying just like, yeah, we're not gonna do that, we're not that dumb. They announced it you know, like the release date, they're like, okay, it'll be available at 8 o'clock, and it was as much of a mess as the PlayStation was. Also, somehow, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. Pre-orders in general are really hard, especially now, like I said, with bots and everything, which has been a thing for a while, but more than ever now that online purchasing is basically the only route to go for these type of things. But I mean, another thing recently, and if you think in next gen, Nvidia has announced about a couple weeks ago that they're gonna have a new line of 30 series graphics cards, all looking fantastic, like price wise, besides, I mean, the very obvious outlier being $1,500, but price to performance versus previous graphics cards, we have the 3070 coming in at $500, which is a really, really good deal. And that also suffered from a really, really scuffed pre-order and like kind of launch window, where even I believe as of today, the 3090 being that $1,500 card had issues with the pre-order, so much that Nvidia apologized for the launch of the 3090 on social media before the pre-orders even went live.
Dude, everyone's struggling with pre-orders right now, man.
That would be like me walking up to like give a presentation, and before I start the presentation, I'm gonna go, "I'm sorry, you have to listen to this. Now let's get to it."
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, what does it say though? Like about like all these bots. I mean, to be fair, there are definitely like heroes out there, like regarding both the Xbox Series X, PS5, and these Nvidia graphics card. Obviously, you have people who, you know, made bots like get them all, and they were like, scalping them. There was also a couple of people who wrote another bot that makes it so they would find those, put an outrageous amount of money on it, and then not pay it, so the scalpers couldn't make money off of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
so heroes do exist,
yeah,
but there's not enough of them, and this problem will still be prevalent.
Yeah. It happens very frequently, and it happens, I know, even in like the fashion industry, where big hype beast like type businesses like Supreme and stuff like that, where they have drops. It happened with my mouse when I got it, the Logitech white edition, the G Pro Wireless. It sold out in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I remember. It's funny because like you can trace that back even further, and like the original like quote unquote like bot scalpers were people who went to like sports events like football, soccer, hockey games, and like concerts.
Yeah.
Like that used to be the original, like you need to like people would start scalping, and then now like as things have like shifted more or less towards more digital stuff, and gaming has become more prevalent, that's just a new place for people to like scalp even harder.
Yeah, that's just how it is, you know. People and scamming and all that will just evolve as we continue to evolve.
Yeah.
And that's just bound to happen.
It's inevitable, but I don't know, you hate to see it.
I mean, I will say though, like the Nvidia graphics cards, and I didn't exactly know, because I'm not like a total tech head when it comes to like computer stuff. So I asked Hector for his opinion on like, okay, so how good does this 30 series really look? And he just said, yeah, the 3070, which is $500, is stronger than the entire like previous generation of cards,
which has not been
which is
a thing
insane
in like the past 15 years. Where like, so typically, for those of you that don't know, the graphics cards release like with 3 different models, being like the like lowest tier to like the highest. And typically when they release a new series, like a new follow-up the next time they release them, that probably like the lowest card in that new one is on par or maybe a little worse than the secondary card. But this time around, the beginning price, entry price card is more powerful than the highest tier TI version, not even just the normal version, which is mind-boggling to me. And I think it's definitely gonna be something that Nvidia has thought for a while to compete with these consoles and how competitive these prices have been. But another like ridiculously cheap thing that got announced that I'm very pissed about because I was an early adopter at it was Oculus Quest coming out with a second version of their portable VR, which I did not see coming. I know there was a few leaks previous weeks to it, but I guess
So-
like, if you weren't like super active in the community looking for leaks and stuff like that, no one would have seen this coming.
So remind me of something.
I'm-
Did you
I'm
pick
no
up
one.
a Quest whenever it came out?
I picked it up day of.
So wow, that's actually really bizarre. Then it's not often you
Mhm.
see the second iteration of something just a year and a half later. That's
Yeah.
wild.
It's crazy, and you really don't see it how they did it, right? So it's $100 cheaper than what the Quest 1 launched at, so it's $300.
Wow.
But it's actually more powerful than it as far as specs. The last one used a outdated Snapdragon Qualcomm processor. This one is using current gen, which is a lot better, and so it's cheaper, faster, and like almost every way. So the build quality does suffer a little from it, so people have said like the straps and stuff aren't as stable, and it's a little uncomfortable to use, but they have a lot more focus on accessories this time around to compensate for that. So they have that normal version, and then they're selling like battery straps and like more comfort pro straps and stuff like that. Additionally, that will start bringing up the price a little, but
That seems a little bizarre. Like the fact that I'm looking at this. You mentioned that the build quality is kind of like meh, and like the straps are also kind of like meh. And then you see that they have something that's called the Elite Strap with battery, delivers double the playtime with increased balance and ergonomics.
I just gotta say, they hit us with the here's the Quest 2 we're releasing. It costs less, pretty good specs, everything than the other one, and now it comes with DLC you can purchase.
I mean, practically, I think it's a smart move, like from a business standpoint, right? Like, or even from a consumer, right? If you're paying $300 and you're like, well, I was gonna pay $400 for a new Quest anyways, that's more powerful, then great, you can chip in that extra to get a better strap, to get a better case, whatever.
And still probably have money left over.
Yeah, and games and stuff. But if you don't want to, $300 for a standalone all-in-one VR headset is the cheapest it's ever been to date, period.
That just reminds me of what does anyone remember what Valve's headset was called?
Index?
Yeah, the Valve Index, and how that retailed for 1,000.
Yeah, exactly. So like if you compare it to like, and I would say that's like top of the line VR, but like $1,000 is crazy compared to this, and so $300 is like competing with those current gen consoles. Yes, it's not nearly as powerful, or it doesn't even do the same things realistically. So that's why I think it shouldn't be compared with them necessarily, because it's a completely different experience.
Yeah, this is in its own whole
makes
category.
sense, but VR to VR, this is on par.
It's such a big gap.
Yeah, and with Oculus Link, which is their basically software that they have integrated into it, where you can connect a USB-C to your computer and the headset, and you can tether it just like you would with any other VR headset. So it's a great deal. I think for those of you that want to get into VR, and like I did a year and a half ago, it would have been such a great launch like this. I think I'm probably gonna skip a generation and probably wait till the Oculus Quest 3.
This might be the one I pick up, honestly.
So you mean you'll be there in a year and a half?
Yeah.
If this
No,
is the
no,
trend,
no,
I'll
like,
have to wait 7 years because you know they like screwing me over.
No,
Okay,
no,
what
no,
do you
no,
have?
4 months.
4 months.
They're like, yeah, so the Quest 2 was a flop. Here's the Quest 3 now.
I mean,
we've
like,
upped the price to $700.
I mean, here's the thing, right? What totally helps them launching this Quest 2, and the reason I think like Valve's got any like traction in the first place is because they had a big AAA game to like put behind it. Like, they had Half-Life Alyx, and then now Oculus is announcing that they're going to be working primarily with Ubisoft to make 2 VR games for 2 very big franchises. One being Assassin's Creed, and the other being Splinter Cell. And those are both huge for like multiple reasons. Like, of course, Assassin's Creed is like super well known, right? And you know they've got Valhalla coming out. So I wonder if they're planning on making an entirely original one, or like making like Assassin's Creed 2 in VR, because you know that one's well loved.
Yeah, I'm interested as well.
But what surprised me more was hearing Splinter Cell's name like in there, because Splinter Cell is like, it's one of those franchises that like Ubisoft had, like that was theirs and it was popular, and then it just kind of died off. And it had some sort of resurgence with Rainbow Six Siege because, you know, the game is Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah.
But it never really had anything to do with like the original IP that like the games were based off of. Well, until recently, they did add the main protagonist Sam Fish as a playable character within that game. But like the Splinter Cell franchise had just been dead forever. So to hear like a new game that they're actually doing something with a property is pretty exciting.
I was about to say, it's been like, what, I think 7 years, 2013, when they actually did Splinter Cell Blacklist.
Yeah,
so
it's been
this
7 years.
long of a wait, and then they're like, all right, we're doing VR now. Let's go.
Yeah, no,
and it's just like,
I'm
this is
stoked.
crazy.
I'm really excited. I think for me, for those of you that don't know, I am an owner of a Quest 1, like we mentioned. I was pre-ordering it. And I've enjoyed it, definitely. I think when I got it, it was the first of its kind, similar to like buying the Switch when it first came out. Kind of that first thing that has never been seen before. And it was exciting. I really enjoy it, and I still do to this day. I don't play it as often as I wish I would have. And so I think for that reason, it's really hard for me to justify getting a newer version because like even selling this, people have gone from like selling them at like 400 on the Facebook marketplace, which was the retail cost, to like now 200 because they're like, well, I want the new one and it's better and faster, so why would I not just sell this one and get a new one, kind of thing.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
So I mean, if anything, there's two options, right? If you're a newer adopter, it's like you could look at getting this new version for 300, but there's also the alternative of like looking for used Quest 1s because it's been such a short span that most of them don't have that much wear and tear on them, so you can probably get a really cheap Quest 1 and that will be like a $200 VR headset that's super top quality. So I mean, it's something to think about if you are trying to get into VR, but
yeah, it's just more options now at this point. I think that's really good for this kind of
I
industry.
honestly don't think you can really go wrong either way with how like recent both of them are.
Yeah, exactly. Because like the Switch is still, or sorry, the Quest is still very capable of doing a lot of things. Especially if you decide to tether it to your computer, it runs exactly the same as the Quest 2. And if anything, it's better experience because it has an OLED display, which is much more immersive than this newer LCD that they're going for. Yes, it is a little worse of a resolution, but even then, it's just like, once you're in VR, if for those of you who haven't tried it, it's just such a sick experience that
if
I think
if you haven't tried
it's a cool
it,
first experience.
it is something like you will never be able to imagine how like cool and realistic it is. It's actually just something you need to experience. Like you can't have people describe it to you. You just have to go out and find it. And you can probably go to like stores or something, try it out because they'll have VR headsets.
I doubt
around.
they would now.
Well, not now, but like, but like once everything like clears up and everything.
But we got the deal of the week this week. As we're wrapping things up, Rocket League going free to play. I know we talked about it on previous episodes, but just as of yesterday or 2 days ago of the time of this going live, it's going to be free to play on Epic Games, and it also has a $10 off 15 coupon included with it if you get it in the next 30 days. So if you haven't already played Rocket League, Hitarth and I, even Audie for that matter, have played immense hours into Rocket League.
I've played too much of it
a lot. So if you haven't tried it already, go ahead, pick it up. $10 off 15 coupon. So even if you don't care for Rocket League, even that alone should justify going to the Epic Games launcher. But Rocket League, when it did go to free to play, actually had a lot of issues with the servers.
I would say it was very recent as well. Like this was like a day or two ago, so this is very new. So
yeah, you think that might have something to do with Fortnite, or?
You know, it's how it is.
I mean, to no one's, I'm sure to no one's surprise, the split second that they got picked up by Epic, and you know, the split second that it went free to play, they announced a crossover with Fortnite. I think it's called the Llama-Rama or something.
Yes, it's like a Llama-Rama event. It's Fortnite crossover Rocket League. Everyone knew that this was bound to happen, and it was gonna show up ever since Epic was like, yeah, so we have Rocket League now. It was inevitable. It's happening. I'm fine with it.
Llama-Rama, baby.
For a long time player, and like even though I don't really play Fortnite, I tried it a bit. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think it's cool that Rocket League's branching out, getting these new events and stuff. More free items, you know, more customizables you can use and all that.
Yeah, the fact that it's free to play now is definitely going to be such a boon for its like community to keep staying alive and like marching in these coming years.
Yeah,
I agree, and I think it'll transition into that period if they do decide on making a second Rocket League down the line. I don't foresee them doing it because of how long it's already been out, 5 years going on now. So
and especially just now going free to play.
Exactly. So it seems like a game similar to like Team Fortress 2, where they launch it, it's free to play, and then they just hope that it continues its popularity among the next years. But speaking of Among Us, you like it, the clean transitions, baby.
I was gonna say that's the biggest stretch of a transition we've had.
I honestly, I'd like to say it, that wasn't planned. It was just big brains, rather.
I'm glad that wasn't planned.
You can't tell
Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
But Among Us, if you have been living under a rock, is a very, very popular game, even for people that aren't too into like gaming in general. It's been a lot of fun. It's a really cheap game, $5 on Steam or even free on mobile, where it's similar to Mafia or Trouble in Terrorist Town if you've played that.
You mind if I want to take a crack at explaining it?
Yeah, so I'm terrible at explaining stuff.
So Among Us, the best way I can describe it, is a social deception game that's played with 4 to 10 people. And the objective of the game is the players are put into a map and split into 2 teams. The crewmates that are tasked with doing tasks around the map to like fix whatever they're on, like will it be a ship or a base, and the imposters whose objective is to kill all the crewmates. And so the way that it works is you know, the imposter can go around and kill someone, but if somebody else finds a dead body, they can call a meeting, at which point the players in the game will deliberate and like put together information on who's potentially the imposter and then vote them and kick them out. The objective for the crewmates is to either get rid of all the imposters and do all their tasks, or for the imposter's case to, you know, get rid of all the crewmates.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. And
what makes it unique compared to other ones, like if you've played in Gary's mod, you've played like Trouble in Terrorist Town or even Murderers, stuff like that. What makes this unique is that like how the game is meant to be played, even with your friends or with people online, no one talks during the actual game itself, and then you would start talking only when meetings happen.
Yeah, that gives it like a really like interesting spin, because you're just kind of like there murmuring to yourself like, oh, I think this person's suspicious. But none of that can be like expressed till you actually get in that meeting.
I was gonna say, it makes the game feel more surreal
and more tense.
Yeah, it definitely adds to that tension in the game for sure.
Yeah, it's been a great time, and I think the game has been out for almost 2 years now, to many people's surprise. So it kind of had like a quieter launch. It's a very small team of 3 devs that are making this game, but they did previously say that they were going to be working on Among Us 2 after all of this initial popularity from big Twitch streamers such as SodaPoppin and XQC playing their games consistently and kind of branching off of that into the rest of Twitch. But
it makes sense. It makes sense, you know, with how old the game like actually was.
Yeah, exactly. And more just that when they were developing it originally, it was more in mind of, okay, well, this is just a fun game to play with friends. I don't think they anticipated this many people going into it. So
yeah, Among Us it has definitely had a strange life cycle. Released in 2018, you know, like they had a small player base. They kept actively updating it pretty much till the start of this year. And then, you know, all fell signs. They're like, okay, we're pretty happy with our project. And then over the summer, it just explodes. And they're just like, oh, okay, so there's actually like something here.
Yeah, so then they decided recently, actually, that they wanted to cancel Among Us 2, and I know initially I was very sad about that, and I've watched a lot of Among Us videos, and it seemed like they wanted to fix a lot of the things that went wrong in Among Us, and they thought that the best route was just to create a new version of the game because of the code in this original game. But they instead just recently decided, let's go ahead and just cancel the new version that we initially planned to do, and let's dedicate more time into improving the current Among Us game.
And I kind of find that odd, because the whole reason they announced Among Us 2 in the first place is because the base Among Us code is a mess, you know, according to the 3 devs. And to go back and like detangle that and implement new things and make sure they're like okay and working seems like a lot of work. But they seem to have decided to go against that for the sole fact of, you know, they don't want to fragment their player base. Like they've got, I think it's safe to say like 5 million, 10 million players, right?
Yeah,
like
it's a crazy amount.
Like they've got a massive amount of people playing, and they just said they're gonna cancel Among Us 2, put all their focus into Among Us 1. Like whatever we had planned for Among Us 2 will be shifting back into Among Us 1.
Yeah, which ultimately is a great thing for like the players, right? Because think about it this way. You won't have to be getting another game, so that's good. But also, if they do choose to add more things into the game, like DLC and stuff, you have the option to decide, hey, do I want to get this, or do I want to go this route of getting like a... I could totally see them doing like a map-specific DLC. I don't know if they would do that, but that could be a cool avenue of getting...
I mean, they have already announced that like a few things are on the way, like a colorblind support is on the way. They're planning on implementing a friend system and then also a new stage. I don't know whether they're going to be monetizing that as DLC, because previous map updates were free. Stuff like the third open map Polis, which is like really big, was like all from a free update. So I think it will probably stay free. They're just going to keep like working on and updating.
Yeah.
But like my fear is that with what they've said, I hope that they're not like in over their heads for this. Because they've already mentioned that the code is like super hard to work with, and it would take a lot of time to implement it. And now they're going back on that, you know, like for the love of the player base. And you know, as a player, I appreciate that, but I would also hate to see them get burnt out going through all this mess.
Yeah, and the way that I see it, right, is even though it is a lot to untangle, the fact that it is only a really small team developing it, and there's only one person actually coding it and programming it, they in essence have the capability of going back, and he knows that all of that code was written by him, versus if it's a larger team, it's a lot of the times just smarter to end up switching to a new game. So
yeah, I think when it comes to that, at least the new stuff that's coming up, I'm mostly excited for both the friend account system that they're gonna add, because that's gonna make it way easier to actually like do lobbies with friends together and all that. I also think it's the new stage. I'm really excited for it. Audie might be too, because it's Henry Stickmin themed. Yes. So that's going to be really good. But I think we're starting to wrap up here on our show, coming to a close. We've got, yet again, new week, new music coming in. We've got Big Top and Step Forward by Artemis from their album, also called Artemis. Audie's going to like this. We got some modern jazz, upbeat and catchy. Music is very dynamic, and it flows really well. So that's going to be the first two. The third one is going to be Daniel, You're Still a Child by Declan McKenna, I believe how you pronounce that. It's from his album Zeros, and it stylizes 80s synth music into an indie pop style of music. And so I think that was pretty cool, and so I hope you guys enjoy all three of those, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for that jazz one you mentioned. But as Hitarth stated, that is all the time that we have this week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you guys next week. And as you know, COVID's still going on. So if you're going to go outside, wear a mask, wash your hands. Please stay safe. And we'll see you guys next time.
Take it easy.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
We'll catch y'all later. Goodbye, guys.